Once upon a time, Gabe blessed the world with his mighty gas, and unveiled upon the world a game that would change the world and the country of Tunisia. Advanced combat, an interactive world, intriguing story, and a remarkably handsome man. The gaming world rejoiced. This was all that they needed to fulfill their gaming needs. And not only that, they got to continue the story of Gorton Fredman. This was not just a game, but this was Half-Life 2 times equals life. Today,
I'm going to review it.
The game begins with a dude breathing onto your face, spreading his germs and excreting his gunk. He talks about some random bullshit and then the game starts. You're introduced to the two main characters of Half-Life 2, Tony and Baloney. They talk about their experience in Iowa before coming to City 17. After leaving the train, you never see them again. You look up above you and see an episode of The Price is Rice, which shows the evil ruler Dr. Spleen and his malicious haircut. As you make your way through a train station, we must address the elephant in the room. In the 2012 Summer Fun update to Half-Life 2, Valve added an elephant to the train station. The reason for doing so was in response to the Great Egg Throwing incident of 2011. We all remember what happened that day, come on. Finally, you decide to board the train to Boner Prospekt, before a remarkably handsome man leads you into his beating chamber, where he talks about buying beer and that apparently Gorton and him are friends. This is obviously untrue and a fabrication, and the game is trying to gaslight you. He tells you to find Algex, who can lead Gorton to Dr. Spleen in order to get a copy of the ultra-rare Disney Pixar movie, You're Turning Red, the key goal of the game. You then escape the remarkably handsome man's devilish grasp and escape into a hall where a civil protection officer tosses a can off a trash can like a dick. This is obviously a symbolic analogy to the fall of the Roman Empire, which is that things that are sturdy can fall like a terribly put together IKEA table, thus making this moment in the game as consequential as the Treaty of Versailles. After going around and jumping on rooftops and parkouring like those Russian dudes you see on YouTube, Gorton meets Algex, an ex-Burger King employee who now sells clay water bottles for a living and is proficient in Scratch game design. She takes you down an elevator into the secret lair. You're then introduced to a bald man who claims to be a friend of the player, but really, he is suffering from what is known as quote-unquote bald culture. For those unaware, bald culture is a phenomenon when a person has the sudden urge to shave their hair and become bald. This was a result of the 2008 Democratic National Convention, where Barack Obama announces controversial policy of balding criminals charged with misdemeanors. Obviously, Kleiner suffers from this phenomenon, which is certainly shocking to a player.
My fellow Americans, I am here to announce to you today that all Americans are going to become bald.
Remarkably handsome man comes in shortly after and talks about how he gets paid minimum wage, and he is upset. He introduces Gorton to the HIV suit, a piece of protective armor that gives the player HIV. Kleiner then goes over his notes and explains how tetanus has also been incorporated into the suit. Gorton is then led to a teleporter, which resembles a teleporter, and is told to help with throwing a switch to teleport Algex into the local Best Buy. After doing so, remarkably handsome man congratulates Gorton on his switch throwing skills, something he learned and trained for during his time at MIT. This is a fun fact. Gorton actually has a PhD for switch throwing. In fact, he's one of the few people in the world with such a degree. When Gorton must be teleported to Best Buy, a Thanksgiving turkey appears, sabotaging the teleport. He's then teleported, but he is teleported different places, and then teleported again before teleporting back to where he was teleported. After the teleport, following the teleport, he runs away from Kleiner in order to avoid becoming a part of the bald culture. He turns a corner to find a balcony and a giant skyscraper known as Amazon. Remarkably handsome man comes over the balcony and hands Gorton a crowbar. As a fun fact, remarkably handsome man might seem out of place to some viewers, because he is. So let's address the elephant in the room, shall we? Remarkably handsome man is actually a replacement for a previous character named Deadmaw 5, who would erupt with cheese and give Gorton the cheese touch, thus allowing him to get the Best Buy. With Gorton now equipped with a crowbar, you find yourself in a secret little tunnel. The reason it's secret is because you can't find it through any other means, and the game forces you to go through it due to the linear playstyle. You witness the tenderizing of 2 citizens for Combine Thanksgiving who you decide to murder. At this point, Gorton has obtained the Nyan Cat gun after beating another Combine officer, which he uses to slaughter his way through a train yard until he meets a Vortigaunt and a citizen, who are made of gold and petrified. Deserved. Gorton then comes across the raid of a quote-unquote station, as the rebels would call it. Inside, it becomes clear to the gamer as to why the raid and the killing of the rebels was justified, as they have been making crystal meth. Gorton continues making his way through the canals and encounters a number of creatures and demons along the way. In particular, he encounters the Woman, who is extremely dangerous. Half-Life 2 beta fans will recall that she is actually the final design for the Antlion King concept. Crazy. Further along, Gorton destroys a Combine memorial bridge to Steve Irwin by blowing up some explosive barrels and killing some civil protection on top in comical style. Immediately after, he finds it. The Barnussies. Skipping ahead, we find that Gorton has met a rebel member who has conveniently prepared an airboat for him. Before we continue with the review, let me quickly show you what happens between this part of the chapter and where we left off. With the airboat now in his possession, Gorton begins his journey to get to Best Buy. Except the airboat is not an ideal vehicle for such a trip. Luckily, a fully functioning luxury yacht awaits Gorton right around the corner, one that he of course commandeers for his own use. He makes his way through a series of canals in order to reach his objective, but unfortunately the Valve devs did not really consider the sizing of a yacht in their level design. So, obviously, Valve really needs to fire some people and hire some new talent.
You stupid!
No, not.
What's 9 plus 10?
What the dog do?
Walking slow here, Coachy now.
I wouldn't believe it if I couldn't see it with my own eyes.
Greetings to the Freeman. The Freeman will accept this weapon or suffer greatly on the road ahead.
After all the turmoil, Gorton has finally arrived at Best Buy, a momentous occasion celebrated by many Pikmin awaiting him on the dock. He makes his way through the crowd, cheering him on as he enters the facility to meet her, Ina. Obviously, we need to address the elephant in the room of adding Ina to Half-Life 2. So, in the 2018 Temptation Stairway update to the game, Ina was added to Half-Life 2 as a paid $400 DLC. This was controversial due to the fact that it was controversial.
Finally have the chance to work together.
Ina introduces Gorton to Rumpelstiltskin, who explains his weird thingamabobbers and doodads to Gorton, much to his disinterest. Ina and Algex then get into an argument before being told,
Alex, why don't you
Get the fuck off my part!
Gorton is then taken to a scrapyard to do some manual labor, an unfortunate consequence of him meeting the guy who was subjected to the bald culture, if we remember from earlier in the video.
Secondary trigger lets you grab things. You can throw them.
He plays with Algex's pet, the Hulk, as they have a nice game of catch, before a nuclear bomb is suddenly dropped. With Gorton now in the town of Ravenholm, one flaw is immediately noticed. While the title of the chapter is, quote, "We don't go to Ravenholm," the reality is that Gorton has in fact just gone to Ravenholm, making this chapter title incorrect and the Valve devs disqualified to develop any further games. The design of Ravenholm is very contemporary, and is based on urban American strip malls, with a Taco Bell and Wendy's present in the home. Now, the lore of this place is very interesting, so let me explain. In Season 6, Episode 9 of The Simpsons, Phineas and Ferb help Dr. Evil find the Holy Grail. While doing so, they come across Peter Griffin Family Guy, who tells them about the wonders of ticks, and thus causes Ravenholm to be brought into existence by a guy known as Mario. So, Gorton has arrived at this place, and discovers the reality that zombies and all sorts of creatures have flooded the area. He makes it his goal to kill all of them, and find his way back to Algex and crew. After the initial slaughter, he meets him, Big Chungus. Big Chungus tells Gorton to do the best he can from being killed by the zombies, and asks him to meet him at his favorite water tower to show him his good friend named Mr. Finger Uncanny Mr. Incredible Big Chungus Uganda Knuckles. Gorton does not understand a word he says, and then activates his super mode to fight his way to the water tower. Gorton then arrives at the water tower and decides to go for a swim to explore the land of Subnautica, which, as we all know, is a 2018 game developed by Unknown Worlds. Why Valve decided to incorporate an entirely different game within Half-Life 2 makes no sense, and frankly seems silly. You have to play an entire other game before being allowed to leave the water tower? It doesn't make any sense! Finally, once Gorton makes it out of Ravenholm, they meet a guy named Leon, who asks them to watch a show with him. Leon then reveals to Gorton that a Fleetwood Bounder awaits him, the vehicle that he will drive to rescue the now-captured Rumpelstiltskin and Ina. They are being contained at Boner Prospekt, the same place Gorton almost went to at the start of the game. What the heck, guys? This is crazy! So, before Gorton takes the Fleetwood Bounder, we must realize something important. This is the moment that Gorton became Heisenberg. Now, the Combine and Dr. Spleen are not too big of a fan of this development, and set up many roadblocks to prevent him from getting there. So let's check out what happens.
Who is it you think you see? Who are you talking to right now? This is not meth. Do you know how much I make a year? You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clear. Holy mother of God! Get off the toilet!
The bridge in Half-Life 2 is a well-known part of the game, and it's often praised by fans for its atmosphere. Despite the idea being the simple concept of just crossing on the truss of a bridge to shut down a gate, the game manages to maintain a beautifully calm yet lonely atmosphere the entire time, with a modified version of Shadows Fore and Aft, a song first heard in the beginning of the game, but with a much more dialed-down tone playing in the background. Really, it gives the player a feeling of serenity from all the killing and brutal tactics that they witness throughout the game. Gordon's journey down below the bridge is accompanied by the rumble of a train above and the passing of seagulls. It really is quite beautiful. After the long journey, Heisenberg has arrived at Chicago, a small town occupied by Pikmin and some minions. They inform him that the Combine have tracked his movements, and that he must destroy the Fleetwood Bounders so that they can't track him further. So with much regret, he destroys the RV. After the RV is destroyed, Heisenberg and the minions prepare to fight against the incoming Combine onslaught. The fight is over and the day is won, but the corpses of minions and Pikmin lie across Chicago, reminding Heisenberg of the horrors of war. He evacuates the town in fear and runs along a cliff to avoid any further detection from the Combine. In the process, he finds a man named Laszlo, who happens to be the only green human in existence, who is unfortunately killed by antlions. He does some epic parkour to bypass the antlion threat. Heisenberg finds a tiny rebel base where they cook burgers and fries, and he wants to get a tasty meal, but before he can do that, a raptor attacks him, though it is little threat to him, and the raptor is killed instantly. After killing the raptor, a Vortigaunt gives Heisenberg a Baosake, a special orb that can control antlions. Inside the base, he gets burgers and fries, and witnesses an intelligent conversation between two Vortigaunts.
What's up? Can a low come up in your crib?
Fuck you, I'll see you
Maybe
at work.
you got rid of that old yee.
Heisenberg then goes on to a beach, and prepares to use his newly gained antlion abilities.
Station, this is squad lead. We need artillery on this location. Over.
Roger, yeah, on the way.
After all that he has been through, Heisenberg finally arrives at Boner Prospekt, and begins his search to find Rumpelstiltskin. Now, I think we need to address the elephant in the room, which is the condition of Boner Prospekt. Obviously, this place is horribly run down, and leaves the player wondering, why? Well, to answer this question, in the 2009 Minecraft update to Half-Life 2, griefers were added to the game, and promptly targeted the Boner. As Heisenberg advances through the facility, it becomes more and more apparent as to the damage the griefers have done. The Combine have set up multiple monkeys throughout the facility, showing their weak control over the situation. He makes his way into a bathroom to take a shower from all the stink he's absorbed, especially given the fact that Heisenberg is actually an avid World of Warcraft and Genshin Impact player. His shower is interrupted by another raptor bursting in to join him, in which it is slain in Heisenberg style. We further see the wrath of the Combine, with a Vortigaunt getting ravioli infusions through a beam going straight into his head. This is also a good time to address the elephant in the room. What if Heisenberg had an AK-47 instead of an AR-2? As he further advances into the facility, we hear Dr. Spleen plead with Heisenberg to stop his attack and surrender. In response, Heisenberg says nothing because, as we've seen guys, Dr. Spleen is literally no threat. I mean, come on. The guy used a luxury yacht to get to Best Buy, drove an RV through multiple Combine checkpoints, and literally has the ability to call in artillery strikes at will. Now, since Heisenberg has yet to take a shower after playing Genshin Impact, he decides to instead wash his clothes at the very least in a laundry room. But a problem arises as the Combine have decided to thwart this attempt, and are subsequently killed by Heisenberg. With both his shower and washing attempts thwarted, he decides to just make himself another burger. But once again, the Combine attempt to stop him and blow up a whole damn kitchen. His last resort is the cafeteria, where he hopes to find some leftover burgers. But as the universe is completely against him, the whole kitchen is ruined by yet another raptor. After all of his failures, Heisenberg finally meets Algex, who has joined him in the fight to find Rumpelstiltskin. They get into the security system for Boner Prospekt and find him! Rumpelstiltskin! With their goal nearly complete, they bring him into a holding area and fight their way to meet him. So, as they arrive to meet Rumpel, I'm gonna be real, guys, this chapter is kind of ass. So what happens is that they eventually meet Rumpelstiltskin in a teleporter room and try to get him to City 17. But Ina, who is revealed to have been a spy, takes him to an unknown location, which is presumed to be the Citadel. Heisenberg and Algex follow. They also go through the teleport, but they eventually end up in Kleiner's lab instead. And they learn that they've been taken to Amazon, Ina and Rumpelstiltskin. So this is where things get wild, guys. Let's see what happens. Lucky for Heisenberg, his companion, the Hulk, has arrived in City 17 to join the fight to get to Amazon. He does some real damage to the Combine before letting him through to continue on towards Amazon. A man named meets him and tells him to follow him. They're about to take down an episode of The Price is Rice, which is done in spectacular fashion and met with fierce resistance from civil protection. This is when Heisenberg realizes that he needs to step on the gas and rip some ass.
Right.
After an enormous time spent fighting, Heisenberg finally meets up with Algex, who for whatever reason has gained the ability to make doors explode at will. Let's recall, Algex is an ex-Burger King employee, as stated earlier in the video. Because of this, she needs Heisenberg's help destroying and shutting down a Burger King suppression field. Lucky for them, it turns out the BK suppression field is right outside their building. So they begin to take it down, and while they're successful, they meet fierce resistance, and many of their comrades who join them in the fight die in the process. They flee the Combine and get to it. This scares Alex a lot, and she tells Heisenberg that she must run far away. So they split paths. He then finds himself in a complex physics puzzle, in which he disables gravity to get out of. Now only blocks away from Amazon, Heisenberg learns that he is in close proximity to a remarkably handsome man, and he has to save him from some snipers. After dispelling them, he enters a ruined Amazon warehouse to retrieve him from the roof. He can't avert his eyes from the horrors that lie around him, even after all that he's seen. Many resistance fighters lie around, dead on the ground in front of him.
Did you hear just now?
Remarkably handsome man and Heisenberg arrive at a building known as Twitter, which is firing toxic waste all over City 17. They make it their goal to destroy Twitter in order to stop the suppression field. Considered a near impossible task by remarkably handsome man, Heisenberg excels with ease in destroying Twitter. With Twitter now destroyed, Heisenberg continues on towards the Citadel. Luckily, an underground highway and mobility scooter await him, making his journey almost instant. However, he's forced to make a quick exit, as the Strider is still hot on his tail. Luckily, this delay barely impedes the progress of Heisenberg, as after going through the tunnel, it is revealed they are at a wall. The wall. A rebel informs them that they have a secret weapon, a horse, that is the only thing in the world which can destroy the Amazon walls. All that stands between them and Amazon is nothing, because Heisenberg now uses his super duper super epic mode to destroy the Striders. Finally, at the Amazon walls, remarkably handsome man and the Hulk arrive to join Heisenberg to get him into the building and stop Dr. Spleen once and for all. At the base of Amazon, it is revealed the might of Jeff Bezos' empire. He goes into the heart of the building and finds a weird futuristic casket, which for some reason he decides to get in and go on a fun ride. At the end of the ride, the unthinkable happens. Heisenberg loses all the late epic weapons he has, but as it turns out, the gravity gun remains, and it's more late epic than ever.
So, this is Dr. Freeman. At last. I wish I could say this was a pleasant surprise, but it's neither a surprise nor, as you will surely agree, very pleasant.
You have destroyed so much. What is it exactly that you have created? Can you name even one thing? I thought not. I have laid the foundation for humanity's survival. And not as we have narrowly defined ourselves, but as something greater than we could ever imagine. Something we can now only begin to glimpse. Look, Gordon. Look at what you are throwing away. Is it worth it?
After his late epic battle, he takes a late epic pod for one final ride. As Heisenberg arrives at Dr. Spleen's office, he sees her. Ina. Heisenberg is raging at this occurrence. Heisenberg is taken into Dr. Spleen's office, where it is revealed that Algex and Rumpelstiltskin already await.
First you lead me straight to the doorstep of my oldest friend. Having both of you in my keeping ensures I can dictate the terms of any bargain I care to make with you.
Gordon would never make any kind of deal with you.
I understand if you don't wish to discuss this in front of your friends. I'll send them on their way and then we can talk openly.
Watch out!
Algex and Heisenberg chase Breen to a portal, where it seems that Spleen is about to escape.
He doesn't have a clue, does he?
Heisenberg activates his Super Smash and immediately kills Spleen and blows up Amazon. Fortunately for Alex and Heisenberg, the Gunk Man has returned to offer him a job at Burger King, where Algex had once failed. Heisenberg accepts, and the game ends. Thank you so much for watching the epic game review ever, and the very first ever of it, in fact. On a serious note, I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it, because this took way longer than I thought it would, and frankly, I'm very happy with the result. This is probably not the end, you know, I think we're gonna have more of these, you know, so leave a like, subscribe maybe, you know, you may just want to see more of the epic game reviews, but you'll certainly be seeing more of me, nonetheless. So, once again, thank you so much for watching, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the late epic game review.